Can you guys hear me? Okay. Good morning, everyone. I guess it was a wild party yesterday. Okay. So I'm Krish. I head the products at InMobi for all developer solutions and developer monetization. So we'll get started. And what we'll do is we'll leave around like sort of 15 minutes for queries in the end. And finally, it's all about this, right? Like we are developing apps and all those things. We want to make money out of that, right? So we'll go through some of the challenges and what are the best practices that we are seeing. Some of these different images that you see here are all the people that we work with. And we see the monetization patterns across different type of apps in the market. A brief introduction about who we are, InMobi. We are a young company, around 4 or 5 years old. We have close to 25 locations worldwide. We handle like close to like 4.5 billion ad requests every day. And you can imagine that around 120 billion ad requests a month. That's a huge amount of footprint. We have close to 690 million unique users across all these ones. The most interesting part is like InMobi was voted among the top 50 disruptive companies in technology in 2013. And just yesterday, we won the Best Ad Network Award by Mobile Entertainment for 2013. And if that is not interesting, what's more interesting is this was third time in a row. So we have been trying to innovate in this area for quite a bit now. These are the top advertisers that we work with. I haven't put up a slide about all the publishers because what's interesting here is that essentially where is the demand which runs on the ads and which helps you monetize your app. Okay? So what is the challenge in monetization games today? Yesterday we were having that session about how to raise money and all those things, and I had asked the question to that gentleman that given that all these apps, particularly games, have a very short shelf life, right? Like apart from a few like Angry Birds and all those things, pretty much like it is a year or 18 months or max like 24 months type of thing, unless you are constantly releasing newer features and newer versions of that, right? And then there's this discovery problem. Like there are like thousands and thousands of different games. How do you get that critical mass where essentially it makes sense for you to keep investing in your game going forward because it is generating enough revenue for you, both to sustain yourself as well as to improve your game going forward, right? So a couple of stats, right? This is from the iOS marketplace and published by Flurry very recently. Over 90% of the games are free. Free means like obviously, and these are the different price points. And as you can see that as the price points keep going up, the total number of apps or total number of downloads that app gets obviously comes down drastically, right? So there has to be a model, business model, which is sustainable for this entire gaming industry to sort of keep innovating and developing newer games. Was there a question? Okay. This is from the Android marketplace. What this shows is that, as you can see, the total number of free apps is like 710,000, 710K. And look at the distribution among the apps which have at least 500 downloads to up to say 50,000 downloads. So certainly the economy of free acts as a big boost in terms of adoption of your game, right? How many people will have the barrier to entry where essentially you have to pay either a 99 cents or $1 or $3 for your game versus if you make it free and going forward, how do you make money on that? So that is certainly the trend, right? More people are going towards the free-to-play and all those things type of apps where essentially a lot of in-app purchases within the games, right? But here is another interesting statistics, and this we tell you because we've worked with top app developers or top game developers across the world. Even when there is the in-app purchase, only 5% to max 10% of users will ever pay or buy anything within the game. So the thing is, close to 90% or 95% of your audience that you build out will be free users for the entire lifetime. The question is, how do you monetize them, right? Again, consider this, a free user is not necessarily a sort of a freeloader, right? Whenever you have social games, there are 5% of users who are paying or buying stuff within your game, but you need that game ecosystem for them to keep coming back and playing, right? You can't have a very close ecosystem where only 5% people like sort of pay and they are playing among themselves. It never happens, right? So they are very, very useful to create the game environment, right? So you need them, you need to retain them, because without them, essentially, your game does not get that critical mass to really like sort of move up the charts, right? So 90 to 95% users is given that, okay, we have to find an alternative monetization model for them. And today what exists is essentially ads, and this has been like the standard way of monetizing on a lot of wherever the content is free, right? So for in-app purchases, obviously a lot matters is that how you do the game design, right? Gameplay design, where is the thing about like sort of where you entice the user to buy something, either to cross levels, do this, beat someone and all those things. And these are like sort of, you always do that when you are developing your games, right? But again, the problem is that when you are focusing so much around that, okay, how can I make these people buy things within my game, you are still focusing on the 5% or 10% of your users, which you will finally have, right? So what about a sustainable ad monetization model, right? Now, a very simple ad monetization model is, yeah, you find out every type of advertisers across the world, networks and all those things, play the volume game. Put everyone there, show banners wherever you want. We actually had certain games where every 5 seconds it used to show an ad. What is the trend that we see? Suddenly after some time, like their users are dwindling, right? Because you spend so much time in sort of perfecting the game experience, and then when the need for monetization comes, your game experience has completely gone out of the door, right? So there has to be something more sustainable than that, right? So let's go, what are the top factors for your ad monetization? The first is user engagement. By user engagement, I mean is like how many times they're coming back to play your game, right? How many of them, how much longer they're playing in your game, that matters. Because if, imagine, all your users come to your app for only 3 seconds a day, you're not going to make any money out of that. We have done research where we have seen 2 very similar apps, similar type of download patterns, similar type of user base, but one has a session length which is 3x the session length of the other one. Guess what? When the session length is 3x the other one, this guy makes 8x the money. Because the user is getting engaged. So the user engagement that you have in your app, that is the first, and how much user engagement you can generate from your game. The second important part is ad experiences, right? Very little people put very little thought around it, and a lot of games, if you see that out of like nice car racing scenes, nice cars, and suddenly some banners appear somewhere, like where essentially, even like where the user has to move the steering and all that, the banner sits on top of that, right? So the problem is ad experiences matter, because if your ad experience is very disjoint from your game experience, people will leave. Because there are like thousands of games vying for that same user attention, right? The third actually is the monetization partner. Today what happens is we have seen like a lot of game developers pay very little attention to number 1 and number 2 and pay most of their energy and analytics and sort of development time in doing number 3, which is like get every network in the world possible to show me ads and all that type of stuff, right? So it's important to get it in the sequence. First is user experience, user engagement, second is ad experiences, and third is monetization partner. What we'll do now is we'll quickly go through each one of these, trying to see that what does that mean actually, right? What as a game developer you can do to sort of keep enhancing the user engagement in your app. So this is how the cookie crumbles, right? We have seen that all users, you will have sort of 500, like imagine 5 million downloads, all users. Active users will suddenly drop from there to say maybe 2 million. Monthly active users will even drop from there to say, from 2 million to say anywhere from 1 million. And then engaged users is finally supposed to say 400K. What has just happened? Even though you have so many downloads, so many people have sort of at least looked at it once in their lifetime. But the point is, for you to make money, what really does matter are the rest of the number, not necessarily how many downloads you have gathered, right? So in the entire user engagement part is that, okay, you know what, how do you optimize for the rest of the circles going forward? So how are you making money in the first place? Why does an advertiser ever wish to put something in your app? Everybody, like it is the like sort of the one-on-one on advertising industry, is advertisers pay for users' attention, right? And what do you have as a game? The first thing you have, what is the most like sort of precious resource today? Time, right? Nobody has time for anything, right? What you have done through your game is that you are getting that user time. You are the owner of this much user time in the world. That's what is most valuable for everybody, right? But people will say that, you know what, this is the place where all the young kids are spending their time. That's where I want to go, right? So what is the user time? Let's define that, right? Number of active users, number of average sessions, and average session time, right? In a lot of discussions when we do with a couple of very, very big game developers, believe me, they track this. This is what is of use. That, okay, you know what? How much of the user time am I able to command, right? Because that's what becomes monetizable, okay? Now, let me tell you that what is the big data problem of user time maximization, right? So imagine when you are trying to do user time maximization, suppose new users, which means like who have just started taking your game, are trying to learn around that. Maybe some of them have completed a tutorial, some of them have just crossed level 1 and level 2. You don't want to show ads there, right? Not for the first 7 days. Second is, somebody has done a purchase. Immediately after the next session, you don't want to show an ad to them. Third is, limit number of ads you are showing on a weekday. Because in a weekday, anyway, the number of sessions are like 2 versus on a weekend, the number of sessions are 20, right? I'll come to that, okay, how can you increase the number of sessions on a weekend, right? The number of ads based on session length. If you know that somebody is having a session length of maximum, say, 1.5 minutes, you don't want to show 10 ads within that, right? Which means like once he leaves the game, he will have no memory of how the game experience was. He will have only bad memories about what like random banners he saw here and there, right? So very important how you try to monetize those, right? Second is highly loyal users. Loyal doesn't necessarily mean that they're spending a lot of money, but they are the users who are who keep coming back, right? Imagine you are showing, we have seen that when you show ads during happy moments, it has much better conversion. Because you are showing an ad when he has crossed a level or something like that, versus like how many times you show ads when it is not a happy moment for him, you might want to limit that, right? Balance between rewards, virtual good promotions, ads, and all those things. When do you should ask for a review versus when you should show an ad to that person, right? Then ask for social invites, right? How do you want to tell them that go invite your friends for this, right? A/B testing of different ad configs. What do I mean by that? Suppose you have this entire storyboard of your game and you have total like sort of 10, 15 ad positions. So whenever somebody comes in your game, do you start showing ad in all the 15? Or do you want to do A/B testing of that? Beginning of game versus level crossing versus sort of in between where there is think time, where the user is waiting for somebody else to make a move, right? Do you want to show an ad there, right? And cross promote. When do you want to cross promote? So imagine you have to do that at that level of the users, right? By the way, of the top 20, 30 publishers we work with, all of them do that. It is not about randomly sort of take any ad network, put 5, 6 ad networks and just start showing ads in there. Because what matters is, again, remember, user time. Right? You want to maximize that over a period. That's what people call LTV, lifetime value. Lifetime value you are calculating is that whether I am better off showing an ad now, or I'm better off showing an ad to him like 2 days later. Right? Because the user is most likely to stick around with me if I sort of throttle and make it much more sensible rather than like insensible advertising. Okay? Then comes the other one, the potential drifters. How do you identify them? These are the guys who have been using my app, but I feel that, okay, you know what, they are about to leave. I wish there was an algorithm for that even in relationships, right? Where you can find out that, okay, you know what, this is about to leave. I'm pretty sure people have done some research there, right? But how do you sort of say that, okay, identify these are the potential drifters, I am better off, like saying and throwing an ad there, you might be even accelerating the way that person is going to leave your app, right? So send contextual notification. I will show you some examples of that, right? Use peer pressure. Show him that, okay, you know what, your friends, whenever he comes out next, you show that, you know what, here is what your friends have done while you were away, right? Send hints. Because you don't really care. You are not bringing a worldwide challenge that nobody can play my game, right? That's not your, this thing. These are the guys who will leave anyways. How do you try to retain them, right? Win back schemes. How do you do that? So I'll just show you one example. How many of you have played this game called 4 Picks 1 Word? Okay. It's a good game, right? Okay. But here's what they're doing behind the scenes. Look at this, right? So these are the notifications, all of these things which are coming. I don't know how much of it is visible here, but if you see on the top right, this is the first, it says 3 days ago. I pulled it out from my phone, by the way. 3 days ago, it sent me a notification, hint the word begins with L. Why did it send that? Because it saw that I was at a level, and what was happening was I was not coming back to the game for almost like 4 days. 5th day, they sent me this. Next day, this is the notification comes. Next day, and I have captured this timeline, 3 days ago, 2 days ago, 1 day ago. Can you see what it has sent? It said that, this guy is not coming back, something is wrong. 4th, they see what they send across. You get a bonus. Why am I so important to him? Because he has seen my session patterns in the past as a very engaged user, right? If I keep coming back and I give my user time to him, he's going to make everything fine, right? Okay. He's going to make more money out of that going forward, right? Now that means, like, imagine the amount of, and these have to be real time. You can't say that, you know what, I will do all this analysis, like after 7 days I will figure out. By 7 days you have lost your chance, right? So how do you do all this? All this looks so cool. And these seem to be like lot of different strategies around monetization and retention, right? Because unless you are able to retain, I can tell you, yeah, do this, put a banner here, put an interstitial there, put this thing here. If your user base is dwindling, you are not going to make money. Because people are not paying for your game, people are paying for the user time that you command, right? So how do you do all this? First thing is the low-cost event collection. What do I mean by that? In the enthusiasm to collect all the events, your game should not slow down, right? Because you're collecting like massive amount of data and trying to transmit over the internet and trying to do all the data crunching. Everything has to happen in an extremely low-cost fashion on your app, right? Where the user doesn't even understand that, okay, there is no effect, it does not affect the gameplay. The second is flexible audience segmentation rules. You should be able to segment, saying that, okay, you know what, I want to segment any user who has come at least once in the last 3 days. And I will assign them that, okay, you know what, these are my guys whom I have to give a honeymoon type of experience. Right? You need different flexible rules by which you can sort of create this segmentation of your audience, right? Second is, you need something real-time decision engine, put the right proposition for the user. For example, somebody has just bought something from your app. While your decision engine decides whether to show him an ad or not, if after 2 days, what will happen? When he has bought something, the next moment he comes into the session, you are showing like big banner ads to him, right? So it has to be real time, where all this data is being used in real time to decide how valuable this user is, what ad treatment you are ready to give to him, and how you will work towards enhancing his experience with your app, right? Very important part, the real-time decision, because I have seen a lot of companies, what they do is there is an enormous amount of enthusiasm in collecting the data, right? And as soon as they collect the data, they say we are big data. Obviously, you are collecting that. This will generate large files, right? But what you do with that, right? What rules you are able to exercise, and how quickly you are able to take a decision on that. And the fourth is obviously real-time analytics, right? And you want to do all this automated, because you don't want like half of your engineering team trying to figure out all this stuff for you, right? Because anyway, they are supposed to enhance the gameplay, because that is how the life of the game will be enhanced, so that you can make money over a larger period of time, right? You certainly need tools, right? So inherently, the monetization stack has changed, right? People who are making big money, it is not that they are able to connect to like 50 ad networks, that's why they're making more money. It's not, right? The monetization stack has changed. It is that you apply your intelligence, and that to real-time intelligence in how you decide what you do with your game. Come on, like you have put your entire like blood, sweat, and tears into that game. You want to enhance its life with whatever possible, right? So the old waterfall stack used to look like this, right? Like you take multiple SDKs, you go to a mediation platform, and then if you ever have any of your own salespeople, which is very rare, you try to want to exercise them first. Then some of these provide RTB exchanges, where essentially anybody comes and puts ads on your app, and then you connect to multiple ad networks, and then finally, like if there is nothing, there is house ads, right? This is how it used to be, right? But believe me, people who are making money on the games don't follow this, because they understand what is more valuable is user time. How do I command that over a longer period of time? How can I enhance their engagement with my app? So how is that stack changed? By the way, in this, do you see anything lifetime value? It is the moment of presence. At this moment, I am having a 5